All right, we got the the Helldivers 2 players sent a message to the industry. Dang, Skippy, they did. I gotta see this.
Helldivers 2 is a turning point. It's a moment in time in which players actually came together to make a difference.
Again, that's the key takeaway. Gamers rose up together yet again. There's been a bunch of other times that gamers rose up. I gotta fucking okay, whatever. The other time that was at least significant to me was the Star Wars Battlefront 2 situation with like the loot boxes taking too long and odds stacked against them. You gotta there was like some Reddit post that got over 600,000 downvotes, and it's like the most downvoted comment in history, in like Reddit history or some shit. Something about pride and accomplishment. Yeah, that didn't go over well, and I think that was one instance of a game that was just created so badly it set a precedence, and it actually put an objective number on the amount of people it takes to get things going, at least from like the Reddit side or whatever. And then he's talking about Helldivers 2, and it happened yet again.
Banded together in the face of adversity, in the face of corporate greed, and actually made a change. It's proof that if we want better products, that we can actually make that happen.
Yeah.
And we just did. And while I think this is a major win for the Helldivers 2 community, this is something that's far bigger than that.
Yeah.
Because this stamps right in the face of all the people that believe that, well, change can't happen. There's nothing that we can do in the face of these companies and some of the decisions that they make to ruin our games and take away our rights as consumers. And this time we put our foot down and it sticked. This is a really, really important moment. And I really don't think people understand the weight of this. And
Good.
That's what we're going to be talking about today. Man,
Hell yeah.
I go on vacation for 4 days and this is what happens.
Yep.
I'm going to go on vacation again.
Nice.
In 2023 and 2024, we've seen a major shift in our interests as players, not aligning with what many of the largest publishers and studios in gaming have been producing. Players want more.
I mean, yeah. 100%. I mean, a lot of the times these new games come out and they are minimum viable products is the word that a CEO would use for these things that are called games that are releasing in an unfinished state, or maybe a game comes out and it's like a live service game and it's just so goddamn buggy and dog shit that people play it for a little bit and then it'll reach like a peak and then it's just like a cliff in terms of like a chart or whatever. It's like it's just so bad. I mean, there are a couple games that can like turn it around, like Cyberpunk turned it around. Granted, it was like 2 or 3 years later. What else? What was it? The space game with like the infinite planets or No Man's Sky. Yeah, that apparently like No Man's Sky is like really good, but when it came out initially, it was complete utter dog shit. But you know, that just shows that games can have a turnaround, but that should not be the norm for a game to come out in a dog shit state and then get better, or at least like either linearly or exponentially better over time. That makes no sense to me. It's stupid.
More freedom, more access, lower prices, and higher quality. However, that's just not in the playbook for today's AAA game companies.
It's in the playbook of AAA companies to come out with a half game and then make it better. But from at least a kind of educated consumer, I would say if a game comes out and if it's like popping off in like the first week and I'm like watching some people play it or some shit, like, oh, should I get it? Is it too much buggy? Is it just dog shit bad gameplay? It's like, you know, wait like a week for people to like play the game, and if you think it's good, well then go get it. You know, you don't need to fucking pre-order shit. There's nothing being held in reserve as if there's like some limited amount. It's literally just ones and zeros, for Christ's sake.
we've seen studios delivering less content at lower quality at a higher price,
Yeah.
often ignoring the plight of consumers who want to buy their products and most times are even telling them exactly what they need to get our money. And as a result of this disconnect, we've seen breakout successes from lesser-known studios, middle-market studios, and indie developers that are starting to take a bigger and bigger cut of the pie, more than usual, and they've just been continuing to deliver on the players' needs in a way that the vast majority of the industry hasn't. I mean, Hogwarts Legacy outsold Call of Duty, which was the first time in 15 years since the original Modern Warfare 2 in 2000.
Good. Fucking good. Call of Duty is dog shit. It is. And when that Harry Potter game came out, it was a good-ass game. Good games will rise to the top, and dog shit games will simply sink to the bottom. It is what it is.
2009, where Call of Duty has been the highest selling game year over year. Baldur's Gate 3, a turn-based RPG, entered into the cultural lexicon, outshining every game in the same year that we saw Diablo 4, Starfield, Super Mario Wonder, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Final Fantasy 16, Resident Evil 4, Street Fighter 6, and more. In 2024, we've witnessed the meteoric rise of indie titles like Pacific Drive and Balatro. Two gacha game companies, Shift Up and Psy Games, both released premium quality titles like Stellar.
Really? Wait, Stellar Blade was made by like a gacha company? Or whatever. I don't know this game. Over 1 million copies sold? I don't know. So apparently, I guess this game was also made by a gacha company? That's crazy, dude, to think that this is now the formula. If a game company wants to be profitable, you come out and make gacha games first, and then once you have like some sort of surplus, then you can make your, most favorite, desired, artistic, game breaking, favorite artsy game or whatever. I never really thought about it like that.
Stellar Blade and Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. First ever game releases like Pal World exploded across the market, and a middle market release like Helldivers 2 slammed into the industry, dominated live service, and is making a lot of us question whether or not the rest of the industry is just sleeping. Many of these games are sold at a fair price, and I think that's something that's incredibly important. But moreover, many of these games are showing that players today are sick and tired of the same recycled content that's been sold to players at a higher price with less game and more monetization. I can't be the only one who has noticed that players today are more vocal and informed than ever before.
There is a caveat to that. Let's be honest. All of the Steam reviews for Helldivers 2, those are mostly PC gamers. From my understanding, apparently Helldivers 2 came out for PC and PlayStation. All right. So I don't know if there's like some sort of like PlayStation version of Steam where you can like leave your review or whatever, or maybe, because to my understanding, usually console bros, especially like the younger audience, are usually not plugged into the loop, on the day-to-day happenings of their favorite game. For the most part, it was like the PC players that had this like crazy turnaround time.
They are more aware of their purchases, predatory corporate tactics, and are growing more price sensitive day after day. Now, I brought this up in a recent video of mine where I talked about how indie games are taking over the entire industry. And in it, mostly, I was just talking about how many publishers and studios that are out there are just pricing a lot of players out of games. They're spending way too much money making them, and they're never going to be able to reach their sales totals because they're not making the games accessible or available to many players. Something that we saw with the Sony lockdown with the PSN accounts and how many countries you couldn't even have an account in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
And beyond that, these companies aren't really also delivering products that we want or services that we want either. And that's causing a major disconnect with players.
So I think this video is about 4 days old or whatever. So I think, in that time, because I've been kind of keeping up with like the Helldivers 2 thing. Yes, the Helldivers 2 community did succeed in that they no longer require a PSN account for all of the countries that Helldivers 2 is sold in. But I think what Sony did is they stopped the sales of Helldivers 2 in about 140 plus countries where PlayStation Network is not accessible. They just simply stopped selling the game in those 144, or I think it was 144, maybe it's 140 plus. I don't know. They simply stopped selling Helldivers 2 in those countries. So that's a fucking L. Again, it's like, Helldivers 2 comes out. It's like, oh, yay, good game. All of a sudden, we're forcing a PlayStation account. Okay, bad game. Okay, now we got summoned all of the bros, and we did the mega bomb review, negative review on Steam, and they're no longer going to require the Steam, or not the Steam, the fucking PSN accounts. So thumb up again. Okay, so now what Sony has done is they fucked over Arrowhead, and they're just not going to sell Helldivers 2 in like 140 countries. So it's like, like maybe like side thumb to like maybe down thumb. It's like, it's fucking stupid. It's just like, it's an up and down. It's like surfing on a fucking wave, dude.
Players. And one of the other things too that I noticed is that how many of these companies, for some odd reason, completely underestimate the power of the internet and our ability to be able to see through their bullshit. And because of that, players have become much more cautious when it comes to their purchases.
And I think something like this is a culmination of many years of just time gamers gaming and being plugged into the internet and so on and so forth. This is just like the climax of something that was like a long time coming.
Much more informed before they make them. They're talking about them more often with other people. They're watching streamers or YouTube videos and things like that before they ever even press purchase.
Yeah.
And what happens as a result of that is that we've stopped following a lot of these companies. We're not as excited for their products anymore because we're just not interested in the same thing that they keep doing because...
Well, back in the day when I was a young lad, I used to be a fan of all the companies when, all the AAA companies that we have today used to be like the smaller companies back in the day. Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, Modern Warfare, Medal of Honor. What else? There's a ton of other games. I can't fucking remember. BioShock. Tons of these like older companies used to be the good companies when they're trying to establish their reputation. Now that their reputation has been established and, throughout the course of time, they like come out with like the sequel of their game and like 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever numbered version of it. It's like, there was a point of diminishing return, and it was only a matter of time, I think, before, like, it's only a matter of time until these AAA companies I think their mindset changed. I mean, what changed? The industry? You could probably make an argument to say, oh, the industry changed. Like, video games are so hard to make nowadays, and to some degree, I will agree with that. In that, everything has already been done. If you compare it to like stories and books, every story has already been told. Look at movies. Every movie and story has already been told, just in a different way with a little twist and whatnot. So it's becoming increasingly harder to make video games just from like a conceptual standpoint, not necessarily a software thing, because look at fucking Unreal 5 and like all the demos that are coming out of it. Every fucking little Unreal 5 demo that comes out, I always hear it's so easy to make this and that and this and that and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, not every game uses Unreal 5. A lot of these AAA companies use their own proprietary like engines and whatnot, so they have to make all these assets like by hand, which is nice. But when it comes to the I got to make this thing by hand argument, it's like, okay, I made this thing by hand, and that does make sense. Like if you make something by hand, like in the fucking software or whatever, it's like it should. I feel it is like more valued when someone goes in and makes like, I don't know, like 50 different like variations of trees or whatever. It's like, yeah, I did that. That's, you look at the tree guy or the rock guy or the clothing guy or whatever. It's like, yeah, I did all that by hand. I'm so good. And I do think there's value in that, but I don't know. It just seems like a lot of these AAA games that are coming out are just coming out like half baked. Like they're not coming out they're coming out too quick. or whatever. Again, it's like the minimum viable product thing.
Well, we literally have proof of them being so repetitive in the first place and delivering a lesser quality product for an even higher price. And what that leads to is us starting to look for the next game, the next studio to follow, the next publisher or whoever it might be, the next franchise that we're going to be really interested in or invested in. And, well, sad thing for them is that we found them quicker than most of the industry probably expected us to in the first place. And Helldivers 2 is one of those examples. It's a game that we've been looking for, that game that just does it right and does it the way that we've always wanted many of these games to do it in the past. And that's what makes the story of Helldivers 2 so important, but moreover, it's what makes the controversy surrounding the game and, well, our response to it so historic. Now, I don't want to spend too much time rolling over all the details. You've heard much of it by now, but I do want to recap some of the things in hopes that viewers outside of Helldivers 2 can find value in this moment because it's just that important. Helldivers 2 on launch faced a ton of issues. The game was hit with unexpected success, and its servers were...
Oh, yeah, that fucking server bullshit, bro. Within, like, what was it, like day 2 or day 3, I got Helldivers 2, and I couldn't fucking log in because I was getting, like, either black screen or, like, front screened or whatever. I was like, fuck this game. This is dog shit. But I couldn't return it or whatever because it was past the 2-hour mark because fuck Steam and that stupid refund thing. It's like, you have more than 2 hours played. Motherfucker, I haven't even played the game yet. I've been stuck on a load screen. Stupid ass fucking thing. But regardless, you know, I just stuck around because my friends were playing it, and then lo and behold, it was actually a decent game.
Overloaded. Now, instead of this deterring players from wanting to buy the game, it just made them want it even more. Sales continued to double overnight, and Arrowhead Studios started chopping off pieces of the live service just to try to give the game and the server some headroom and keep up with the growing demand. First, it was the liberation rates and the reward delays, and then next it was the optional PlayStation login. After months had passed, the game had stabilized, and the furlough allowed by Sony for the login had ended, and Arrowhead Studios made an announcement for its reinstatement. This led to immediate backlash as players in droves took to Reddit, Discord, Twitter, Steam, and wherever else they could be heard, voicing their dissatisfaction with the change. At the time, I was on vacation, and with zero context, even at first glance, I was confused. I remembered the optional login when the game first launched and ignored it. Tons of games on Steam have something similar. Even Larian Studios has a launcher that pops up advertising their other games and products and asking if you would like to make an account. Ubisoft games, EA games, Epic games, damn near all games that are out there, especially the live service ones, have some type of login. And while I hate it as much as the next player, I didn't really see why it was that big of a deal. It was on the page right when you purchased the game. It was told to players that it would be later reinstated. And then we noticed a change. Sony had flipped the optional PSN login to a required one, even going as far as stealth changing their end-user license agreement, forcing players to do...
Some PlayStation gamers may require you to sign in and link to an account for PSN. But the question was, do I have to sign into a PSN to play a PlayStation game on PC? Some. But what was it before?
And log in to a required one, even going as far as stealth change.
So, okay, so do I have to sign in to play a PlayStation game on PC? Signing into PlayStation Network is optional. That's the keyword, optional, when playing.
Changing their end-user license agreement, forcing play.
And look at the vagueness and the softness of the change in the sentence. Some PlayStation games may require you to sign in. It's like, bro, this fucking language that they use is so slimy. And honestly, if I was younger and didn't know better, I would have been got 100%. You know, I can only see this because I am like an older person and I have like been around the block for like some video games. This is so stupid for them to change this.
Players to do something they already didn't want to do with absolutely no incentive other than to play the game that they had already played for months and had already paid for. Likely even spent money on microtransactions wanting to support a game that was widely known as the best live service in recent history.
Yeah.
This isn't just any game. Helldivers 2 is a cultural phenomenon, a beacon of ethical live service and beloved by many. And an action like Sony's was guaranteed to meet heavy backlash, as their actions contrast so heavily against what Helldivers 2 means to so many players. And a change like a required PSN login came with another very weighted caveat. It would block access to hundreds of thousands of players who lived in countries that weren't available to have a PlayStation account.
Oh, yeah.
What's wild about this is effectively a rug pull that's being pulled off, or attempted to be pulled off, by one of the biggest platforms, one of the biggest publishers in all of gaming.
Yeah, it's part of the big three. Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo. The big three, at least from a console perspective. Yeah.
Most recognizable names in broad daylight, and they thought they were going to get away with it, which is even more hilarious and absurd. But they just didn't realize just how important this game is to so many people. And I was dumbfounded how Sony would pull off one of the biggest PR disasters with a game that is slated to be Game of the Year. One of their most popular games released in the last few years. One of their most successful releases on PC. And a game that is still blowing it off the Richter scale when it comes to how many people are still playing the game online every single day.
Let me see this. So if I log in to Steam, what is this? I go to, no, actually, I go open window, Helldivers 2 Steam charts. Let's see, how's it doing? Ooh, okay. It's not doing too great. It's pretty good. But like it used to be like 200 or 300K like about a week ago. And understandably, like if we look at what is it, like the 6 month or the 3 month? I mean, what was it like up here? It was like 400, 3, 4, 2. This is like a pretty honestly, this is like a very soft downfall. And like from like, when is this? When did shit come out? Like around February 26th or like maybe a little earlier? February 17th, 16th? It just got better and better. Peaked at around here. And it held strong at like 400 plus K for a while. And it's like, oh, 400K again. And yeah. Then February, March, January, February, March, April, May. I mean, this is like past 3 months, like holding over about like around 250K for about 3 months. That's actually really good. That's really good. So it's still like hanging in there pretty strong, man.
And I don't think I've ever seen players this upset or this vocal over a change that any studio or publisher has ever made in the past. And it's rightfully so. They sold the game in countries where they knew that players would not be able to play the game in the future, and they didn't care.
Yeah, that's a bonehead move on Sony's part. So that makes no sense. Like, why would you sell a game in a country, but the country does not have access to PlayStation Network? But before you sell the game, you know PSN is not in those countries, but you can still sell the game there, knowing full well that later that you're going to require a PSN. That's so stupid. Like, actual bonehead company move.
They wanted more than what they already have. They let that greed blind them, and then they let the players show them the light.
Was it like a greed thing? Like, do you think the person that was responsible for that decision, do you think they knew full well the decision to like hit the thumbs up and to like sell everywhere all at once? Or do you think it was done maliciously or accidentally? Like, oh shit, we're going to require PSN. Like, it seems like this person that made the decision to greenlight all the game sales in countries where PSN was not available. Do you think that person is just a bonehead and just stupid? And they didn't think like 1 step ahead or 2 steps ahead or whatever. They simply was just like, yep, sure, I'm just going to go in auto mode and just like, oh, we're going to sell the game wherever. And then a couple months later, we're gonna okay now everywhere, every person that has bought the game, we're gonna require them to have a PSN account. But oh shit, we sold the game in all these countries, but PSN isn't available. Oh shit, sorry guys, my bad. Like, what do you think happened? Was it? Did they purposely do it with like malicious intent, or was it just pure stupidity that that person made that decision? I'd be curious.
Sad thing for Sony is that they didn't realize just how well this community is trained at taking on a single threat. As the outrage grew, negative reviews poured in by the hundreds of thousands. The game plummeted overnight from overwhelmingly positive to overwhelmingly negative on.
Yeah, look at this. This is a good ass game for so long. And then, oh, little red, but nothing really. Like a little red. Oh shit. PSN required. Red down chart, red down box, red down rectangle. And then this like little half bar was like, okay, quick, everybody change your reviews because they switched it. And then everybody was like quickly, okay, okay, we'll pour a bunch of positive reviews in it, and like these bros are just like oblivious. It's like, oh, just fucking, they're not in the loop or whatever. But I would be curious to see like what the reviews look like now, like what are the next, what do you call it? The next little charts, because they just simply canceled the game being able to be played in like over 140 countries. Do you think it's like half and half? Like the game is great if your country supports PSN, but if your country doesn't support PSN, it's like down, negative reviews.
Steam, and it was the highest trending discussion on Twitter and Reddit basically the entire weekend. Articles, commentators, everyone in the industry was talking about it, and Steam wasn't going to ignore it. Customers living in countries that were affected by Sony's PSN requirement began receiving refunds as their game was delisted in 177 countries. Arrowhead's community managers and moderators tried to put out the fires, but ultimately only made matters worse as they just confirmed suspicions that they knew that this would affect people who had already purchased the game and frequently cracked under the pressure of the negative feedback, talking down to players and brushing their concerns aside.
Yeah, the community manager's job is to put out flames and put to rest concerns that are happening within the game's community. If the community is on like up in fire, the community manager is not supposed to cease all communications to them because it's simply too much to handle. That is not the function of that job at all. It's actually, if anything, the opposite. If a game is doing incredibly well, I mean, you're pretty much coasting as a community manager. This is like the fucking easiest job in the world. But oh, God forbid I gotta work and try to explain and console and rationalize why things are happening when the community's up in flames. It's like, oh shit, now I gotta earn my dollar.
Only fanning the flames and adding more fuel to the fire. Surprisingly, one would stand above the rest, owning up to their mistakes as community manager Spitz apologized to players and wound up saying, I want people to make their displeasure known in a place where it might actually make a difference. Steam reviews and refund requests will do that. Angry posting in the Discord won't. I'm not happy about this decision either. And that's exactly what ended up happening.
Yeah.
After an entire weekend of protest, refunds, reviews, and discussions, Sony announced that they would rescind their order entirely. As the weekend closed, Sony responded by saying, Helldivers fans, we've heard your feedback on Helldivers 2.
And look at this, 170k hearts, likes. This is crazy.
Account leaking update. The May 6th update, which would have required Steam and PlayStation Network account leaking for new players and for current players beginning on May 30th, will not be moving forward. We're still learning what is best for PC players, and your
This is a bonehead statement. We're still learning. It's like, motherfucker, you are a multi-billion-dollar company. What is there to learn? You either require PSN at the purchase of the game, or you never require PSN at the purchase of a PlayStation game on Steam. There is no changing it in the middle. All right, this is ridiculous. A game comes out, oh, in the beginning, we're not going to need you to make a PSN account. But then a couple months later, oh, we need it. We changed our mind. We need the PSN account. It's like, motherfucker, that's not how this works. Jesus. Oh, man.
Feedback is invaluable. Thanks again for your continued support of Helldivers 2, and we'll keep you updated on future plans. This is huge. We haven't seen anything like this since Star Wars Battlefront 2, where they required basically every unlockable character to be gotten through loot boxes, where we saw commentators, legislators, customers, everybody get involved, ultimately leading to them removing loot boxes entirely from the game. But this is bigger than that. This is us not going up against EA. This is Sony. This is one of the biggest publishers and platforms in the entire industry. And they're not the type that usually moves on things like this.
Yeah. So for Battlefront 2, like I think I said over 600 mil, or not 600 mil, 600,000 downvotes to like some like dev response to like somebody's question in the Reddit or whatever, was a historical moment when that happened. So there was that number, 600K down thumbs. And I think Steam reviews, how many fucking negative Steam reviews? What was it? I think it was like 250,000. I think it was about 250,000 negative Steam reviews. So that sets a precedence. That sets a number on it. If your game is popping off, and then all of a sudden, you have like a big community, everybody loves the game, and then all of a sudden some shit goes down. This is what you need to do for the future. There's an actual objective number that you can relate to and call back on to get shit moving in the right way that you want. It's about 250,000 negative reviews on Steam, or 600,000 down thumbs to any developer that responds in a stupid way on Reddit. There are numbers attached to getting what you want now.
Our distaste, our outrage was answered appropriately for once, which is wild. But it just goes to show that if you have that many players that actually band together on something, change can happen. But you just have to make sure that you do it.
I'd be curious, like, what's the Metacritic thing? Let me see. Metacritic. Did this bleed over into Metacritic? Oh, not really. It's still like a critic review, 80, mixed. Oh, look at all the fucking reviews. It was 7.4. It's not bad. So it's simply, they didn't even pay attention to Metacritic. I only mentioned Metacritic because a lot of other game companies will rely on like Steam Review, Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, or so on and so forth for their statistics or whatever.
With the right way, and you're effective about doing it in the first place. If players care enough, they can change how these studios act and what kind of products that we get in return, what kind of services we get in return, and even how we're treated in some ways. And I think that's really important. But what not a lot of people are really talking about is why. And the reason why is because these studios are far more reliant on us than they ever have been in the past.
Yeah.
And nobody's talking about it.
Let's
I want
talk
players
about
to
it.
remember that once upon a time, Sony was the one that was keeping Xbox in line. When they tried releasing the Xbox One, they wanted to require an internet connection with heavy DRM, not allowing players to be able to trade or sell their games. Sony eventually ended up poking fun at Xbox with a commercial.
This is how you share your games on PS4.
This was a fucking goated ass commercial.
Eventually ended up poking fun at Xbox with a commercial.
This is how you share.
I remember seeing this. I think, what was this? Was this at E3? This was at some E3, I think. This was the most on-the-nose fucking jab at Microsoft I've ever seen.
Your games on PS4.
Step 1. Sharing the game.
Thanks.
I did it. Let me see. Let me go back. Let me see.
Thanks.
Look at the fucking shit-eating grin on this motherfucker. This is the biggest fuck you Xbox like smiles I have ever seen, dude. The foregoing instructional video applies only to disc-based games. PS4 multiplayer online games access require PSN accounts and Plus subscription. Yeah, that's fine. Oh my god. This is the funniest. This man has never done like a public ribbing in his life. And the first time of him doing it is like, he is tickled. Oh my
However,
god.
times have changed, and now, while we've been distracted by some incredibly fantastic releases over the last year or so, both Sony and Xbox have come out with major concerns about the future of the industry and of their platforms, with year-to-date hardware sales dropping by 32%, and many of both platforms.
Yep, minus 32%. Video game hardware sales are down. What is this, in millions? 574 million, 391 million. It has to be. Total video game sales, projected total market. Oh, or is this like what, per person? I don't fucking understand this. Just minus percent.
Platforms games not meeting their return on investment for the money that they've been spending on those games. They've convinced themselves and their shareholders that it's an industry trend when really it's just players aren't interested in playing their games as much as they used to be. Sony's assured earner in Spider-Man 2 cost over $300 million to make, sold 10 million copies, but needed to sell 7 million copies just to be able to break even. Xbox and Starfield were undoubtedly a worse disaster than even that.
Yeah.
While Xbox had Pal World and Sony had Helldivers 2, these weren't the horses that they were betting on. This was filler to get them through the year, and they were outperforming their flagship titles.
Yeah.
And when your flagship titles are being outperformed by your filler, you have a problem.
You're damn right. Oh, man.
And it's a problem that their shareholders are well aware of by now. That's why we've seen record layoffs from both companies. Just another one today. As of recording this video, Xbox got rid of Arcane Austin and a few others. But they're claiming that games need to go above $70. And it makes sense why Sony would want to force players into creating a PlayStation account just to be able to boost their player numbers, especially in a year where they don't really have very many high-profile first-party releases. And
damn, did you hear that? The first-party games, like the big flagship games, are supposed to be more than $70. You know, you got all these editions of games like standard, boring, basic bitch, regular edition, $70, super giga, magna version, or like maybe like +1 version is like $90, and then super magna gold edition, it comes with some 3-day early access bullshit. It comes with some like extra missions, comes with some extra weapons, and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's $110. Yeah, it's just so boring, dude.
Sony this year has really just gotten started with offering their titles on both PC and PlayStation. Sony wants to show an increase in PSN signups because it's going to bolster confidence from their shareholders. Now, this is probably a passing thought by now, but back in January of 2024, a lack of confidence in
Sony plunged 10 bill after its PS5 sales cut. But a bigger issue is its near decade low games margin. Dang. And I thought consoles were supposed to be on like the up and up. This is news to me. I thought everybody wanted a PlayStation. Nobody wanted that goofy looking square Xbox, whatever it is. I thought consoles were like taking over, but I mean, alas, look at this.
Sony's gaming margins cost a stock drop from $98 to now $84 a share, with their hardest week wiping $10 billion off of the books. The green line has not been going up, and while they can try to mask these issues with studio acquisitions like Xbox with Activision Blizzard King, ultimately these companies are growing more desperate as we are starting to buy less from them and more from others. And nobody is to blame but themselves.
Yeah.
They're the ones that think it's a great idea to pour hundreds of millions of dollars into the exact same IP over and over again.
Yeah, like the same big box office AAA game companies or game IP brands it's like $100 million, $200 million, $300 million to make the next installment of whatever the fuck game. It's like these are rivaling movie level budgets. It's ridiculous. Like, how? There's no shot a game could be as much as a movie. Like, what are we doing? I feel this is another instance of, was it that 900 or that 90K bag of bushings? There was like a thing in the, I don't know if it was the Supreme Court or whatever, but these two dudes bickering over like a bag of bushings. Like, and it cost 90K for a bag of bushings. It's like the inflation on this shit is ridiculous.
For some odd reason, expect a better result. Like, more players are just going to magically appear out of nowhere. Not every game is made for every person. And by the way, when I'm saying more players, I'm not talking about like, a couple 100,000. No, they're projecting like millions more than what their last game sold. And that's just preposterous. It's ridiculous. And I don't understand how these folks even have jobs in the first place, because they're just driving the ship right into the iceberg at this point. They're not taking the time to realize, maybe we should actually split up some of these larger teams. Maybe make a couple of smaller games that are a little bit more affordable and more accessible to more.
But that's too risky in their heads. In their heads, that is too risky to try to come out with a new IP.
Players, and then, I don't know, maybe create some new IPs while we're at it. And also, I can't be the only one that thinks that video games are just way too damn expensive anymore. They're pricing themselves out of the reach of customers. Every single game that comes out has 4 separate copies that you can buy.
Yep.
Each one has different perks and things like that aren't really all that optional anymore.
A 3-day early access, new game plus, new missions, new equipment, new side character thing.
Especially when you're looking at like competitive games that have 3-day early access, or advanced access as now it's called.
No shot is it called advanced access. It's just fucking early access. That's like another softening of the words. What?
Games like that Star Wars game where they're literally locking story content behind behind the different editions of the game.
Yeah, bonehead move.
You also have companies that are out there like Sega, or just recently Escape from Tarkov, that think it's fine to be able to literally put in game features into different editions of the game and piecemeal it to us.
Really?
It's too much.
That's news to me.
It's too much. Obfuscated currencies, microtransactions turning into macro transactions. There's so many games that are out there today that have microtransactions where you can quite literally spend more than you purchased on the game, for the game, in the game with just one click. That's it. It's ridiculous. I don't understand why these people think it's sustainable. And it's obvious that it's not, because they're the ones that are suffering from it. We see it in their stock prices. We see it in their layoffs. We see it in everything else.
You know what? There was like a video I saw like a couple of months ago saying that like people are no longer buying new games. They are simply going back and playing old games more and more. Or they are simply sticking on one single game for a longer amount of time. People are just simply buying less games. And that seems to be more and more true.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Helldivers 2 is such an important game for a lot of people. It was that game that we all started to look for. It's that next studio, that next prized game that we could play as long as we wanted to, and we had a lot of faith in, and it respected our time, it respected our money, and we loved it for that. And this PlayStation account login was just the final straw that broke the camel's back on this one, because this is PlayStation coming to PC players, forcing us to sign up for something that we get no benefit from whatsoever. There's nothing, no tangible benefit that we get from this.
I wonder if he's going to talk about the history of PlayStation and them, what was it? They had their like account database hacked on like multiple occasions, putting into, what's the word? They simply made their databases what do you call it? Dang it, I forgot. It was like really easy to hack into like their database, and it happened like multiple times throughout the years. So it's understandable why people don't want to make a PSN account where they have to put in all their data and shit. They don't want to get it hacked.
The only thing we know is that they just get our data, which they have a really bad track record with being able to keep a hold of in the first place.
Right there.
And that's it. We just continue to get access to something that we already had access to in the first place. I'm just sick of it. And everybody else is too. I can't help but point back to a recent interview with Larian's head of publishing, Michael Dowse, who in an interview with PC Gamer said that players just don't want to be bamboozled. We just want to be spoken to. Dowse said, marketing is dead. It truly is. I can back this shit up, man. There are no channels anymore. It doesn't work. You used to have marketing, communication, PR. Marketing was essentially retail theory. You were trying to get your box on the right point of the store shelf. And you had partnerships with retail stores. Those pipelines are gone.
Yeah. No, I don't really, I mean, trying to put your box game on the right place on a store is still a thing, but I simply don't think it's as prevalent as it once was. Now you have the internet.
Now you've got the internet. Nobody's looking at ads anymore. All the channels that we would...
Yeah, nobody's looking at ads anymore. Everyone's got fucking ad block and shit. Or they simply don't give a flying fuck about the ads when they just watch it. Or they don't care about having to spend money on the premium version of the app so that they don't have to see ads anymore. Either way, nobody wants to see ads.
Would usually market through are no longer really viable.
Yeah.
So their function is also reduced by the fact that players just want to be spoken to. They don't want to be bamboozled. They just want to know what you're making and why you're making it and who it's for.
Yeah.
And I think he's right. Moreover, I think that it only goes to prove just how much these companies have been scrambling because their old tactics don't work the same as they used to anymore.
Yeah. Slowly but surely, the consumer base is becoming, a little bit more educated, a little bit less swayed by dumb shit. It's like a slow thing, and it's how old are video games? They're about 30, 40 years old or something like that. It's a slow progress, whatever. It's just slow, and it's happening.
I hate advertisements. I have YouTube Premium. I don't have Hulu, and I completely stopped.
Same, dude. Look at that. Fuck them ads, dude. Right there. Now, I know some people will be like, Cornel, you suck. You clown. Why did you pay for premium or whatever? All you had to do was spend an hour or two and download this one program and all this other shit. It's like, bro, I got fucking no, not that one. I got ad block, whatever. I got uBlock or whatever. I don't give a fuck. Fuck those ads, dude. I don't want to see a fucking ad.
Watching Amazon Prime because I don't want to be inconvenienced or have my experiences ruined by unwanted interruptions.
And you know what's funny? Over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, my mom has even been getting a little leaning more and more into this. It's so funny because 2 or 3 years ago, she was not about the streaming services. She was all about cable TV and watch commercials and so on and so forth. But she's got a smart TV, and slowly but surely, every time I go see her, she's just it's just a slow transformation of the lamentation and hatred of ads that I just see. And it's not only happening to kids or maybe young adults, teenagers, people in their 20s, 30s. It's happening to people in their 40s and 50s too. It's so funny. The more technologically savvy you are, the less bullshit you are just willing to put up with. And it's so funny to me.
With that said, without standard marketing, these companies have forgotten how to talk to players. They've lost themselves in the numbers and data-driven science rather than just paying attention to what people are saying and what players are actually playing.
Let me see this. How many words in the English language The English language has more than 1 million words. All right. You have about 1 million words. Or actually, there's around 170K that are in current use with an additional about 50K that are obsolete. So you got about 900,000 words to figure out how to communicate with people. Fucking figure it out.
While I know many community managers out there don't have the best reputation, I personally think that the future of delivering on players' needs is them. They have direct access to the wants and tastes of all the players that are playing their games right now. With that said, it's a rapidly evolving role that frequently spirals outside of the job requirement, and I just don't think there's a lot of people that are up to the task. While Sony walked back the PSN requirement for Helldivers 2, we shouldn't forget that they let Arrowhead Studios fry the entire time until they could swoop in and look like the hero. While I wholeheartedly agree that many of the things that both Arrowhead's moderators and community managers said were wildly out of line and tone deaf, at the same time, I try to put myself in their shoes. The people who didn't make these corporate decisions, yet acting as a target dummy for both valid criticism and unfiltered vitriol and hate. I'm on YouTube. I'm not free from criticism, not in the least bit, actually. And while many people will tell you just ignore what some of these people are saying, when you start reaching hundreds of thousands or even millions of people, it's hard not to let a couple of those comments or things slide in and slide through, or people get a hold of you and contact you or find some way to do so because it's the internet. And
you know, I think in that respect, I like being like a little guy. It's like I got like some subscribers, but like nobody's fucking calling me or some dumb shit. It's like I get like a little bit of views here and there. It's like, oh yeah, it feels nice to be listened to and yada da da da. I am just dreading the day that like some dumb shit happens to me. I'll be like, oh fuck.
Yeah. It sucks. And the thing is that when you're looking at some of these community managers, that's what they're being exposed to. It's a rapidly evolving role, and they're becoming far more important than they used to.
Yeah, well, nobody should be fucking, like, honestly harassing anybody. Like, come on.
To be. They're becoming the face of these companies in many ways. And that's a tough role to be able to take on.
Yeah.
Especially given the fact that there are a lot of gamers that are out there that believe that a $40 purchase is a ticket for them to say and treat people however they want to, say whatever they want to those people. And it also does.
Well, don't advocate for violence. That's a huge one right there. Don't dox anybody. That's another huge one right there. I'm sure if we can abide by at least those rules, that's like a good foundation.
Doesn't help that at the exact same time, you have content creators, commentators, and people like that are engagement farming, stoking the flames, and putting even more pressure on these people. And sometimes it's even just an innocent slip up. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what's going on with Helldivers 2, but there was some of that was in there. And I think that's something really important to keep in mind, that what these community managers need to be is a completely entirely different beast than what they actually are. They may be qualified on paper to do the job, but I don't think they're qualified socially to be able to handle the pressures.
They don't got the experience. They simply don't got the actual job experience. I mean, it's a community manager. It's like this enigmatic title of like, what are you supposed to do? Like, I didn't even know what the fuck a community manager was for the longest time. It's simply like the person that just talks to the community and explains why things are the way they are, or maybe some upcoming things, or whatever. It's the middleman between the developers and the players.
That come along with a role like this in the first place. And especially looking at the fact that Sony let Arrowhead fry in the limelight of this for so long, that's a lot of pressure, a lot of hate, a lot of vitriol that came towards their way. And of course, these people are going to crack under the pressure because it's probably not initially what they signed up for or even thought they were going to get into in the first place. That doesn't excuse the things that they say, but it just goes to show that we will sometimes ask for an unfathomable amount of patience and thick skin from people while never showing the same kind of courtesy towards them.
That's fair.
These companies need to realize that communication is the next form of marketing. This is the current form of marketing.
Ooh, that's a big brain right there. Communication is the next evolution of marketing. I like that.
Anyways, and they need to hire for that. They need to hire an entirely different breed of people to be able to do this job. Now, at the same time, as a community, sometimes we do a really good job at making people not want to listen to us. I've seen this change boiling in the background for a long time now. And while there's a lot of people that are surprised that we actually overturned an anti-consumer practice by the side of Sony, I'm not. The battle lines have been drawn, and the audiences for gaming have been growing, and social media's influence has grown along with it, and times are changing. By the day, consumers are more than adequately informed by the wealth of information that's on the internet. Battlestate Games goes to try to change the wording for Escape from Tarkov's bundles to try to scam players out of more money.
Oh, yeah.
Well, players end up finding the archived website and show the changes, just the same as they did with Sony's PSN account changes on their end-user license agreement. Bit by bit, stories are pieced together. Over the course of hundreds of thousands of different discussions that players are having, connecting the dots, and quickly realizing that many of these companies are blatantly attempting to try to steal from us, actively ruining our games, injecting ideological garbage, and removing our ownership from the games that we play.
True.
As the cost of gaming has increased, our expectations have risen alongside it.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, my expectations for games that come out, they have been raised than once, from like the past. Like the expectation was pretty low or whatever, but I don't know. I mean, that's a really good point. Would you say, or would you like advise people to simply just lower your expectations? But if you lower your expectations, then you'll never be disappointed, but then games will never get better. I don't know. It's like some sort of like gradient thing that has to happen. Like you can raise your expectations like a little bit, but you can't like have like huge jumps. I don't know. It's just, it's weird.
Players aren't getting their information from their local GameStop sales rep anymore. They're getting it from their friends and social media.
Yep.
When these companies choose to step below our expectations, try to scam us or otherwise, your main form of advertising for these companies has now become a campaign against your game. Reddit posts beget tweets, tweets beget YouTube videos, then shorts, clips, live streams, and the next thing you know, your 45-second skippable ad, your 1-minute commercial, your handful of billboards are waiting in a sea of hundreds of millions of hours of watch time and engagement from players that are cooking your game, your studio, your publisher, and your money. Helldivers 2 is a turning point, a moment in time in which many of these companies need to reflect on. Times have changed. The bell has tolled.
Yeah.
And we're the captain now. I think this all started
It's such a good line. We are the captain now.
with the $70 price hike. And while that doesn't really necessarily affect the $40 that, Helldivers 2 costs, it does have something to do with the general consensus of player opinions and emotions towards many of these studios and the games and things like that are out there right now. I think that they've priced themselves out of the reach of so many customers that so many people now today are just way more cautious about what they're buying. They want to know.
It seems that video gaming is becoming a more and more pay to win just hobby in general, unless you are playing like some free to play game like Overwatch, Apex, Counter-Strike, or Val. And like it's funny because like all those games are shooters. Like what? I mean, isn't Final Fantasy free to play, I think? Or no? There's like some RPG games that I think are free to play, but I just don't know any off the top of my head because I'm not as like voracious in that genre anymore. It's just like the live service free to play monetization model is, I would say, mostly dominated by at least FPS. But I mean, I'm pretty sure there's like a shitload of mobile games that are free to play that would say otherwise.
More about it. They want to make sure that whatever game they buy is not going to be a game that's going to rip them off. They want to make sure it's a game that's worth the $70 that they spend on it because they had to earn that money to buy that game in the first place, and that studio needs to earn that money if they want it as well. And that's really all this is coming down to. This is just a situation in which players got backed into a corner, and now the studios or the publishers, Sony, are surprised that they're getting bit as a result. You can push and push and push only so far before finally we're going to push back. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And this is one of those moments that I think is going to be a positive change going on into the future. One we're going to look back on and go, hey, man, that's where it all started. And this is a way for us to just keep pushing forward. This isn't one of those things where we need to like, oh, okay, we got what we wanted. Now everything's okay. No, when the next game tries to do something similar, shut them down.
Yeah.
Shut them down immediately.
Oh, 100%.
What happened here and say, do you want that? Because I guarantee they probably don't. I'd imagine that Sony shareholders didn't want the backlash that they saw all over the internet for almost 4 days straight either. So,
I mean, I don't think the shareholders really care. They just want to see the big green up arrow $ up stonk. That's all they care about. They don't care about their fucking reputation. Why would they care about that? If they want to have their name out there, they'll just go buy like some hospital, like slap their name on it. Go buy like a library and slap it in like a college campus. Go make like a statue, like a memorial or something, slap their name on it or whatever. That's how they get like legacy points or whatever. They don't care about like the opinions of people that are on like on the internet.
So, yeah, this is incredible. It's I'll be honest with you. When I first started this channel and I started talking about these kind of things, especially just like consumer buyer beware stuff and things like that, trying to get more people more interested in knowing, I don't know, just what's going on in this industry and how to make a smart purchase and things to look out for and stuff like that. I didn't think that I would see a moment like this happen so soon. And damn, am I happy to see it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even a part of it. I was on vacation.
Yeah.
So that makes it even better, but also kind of worse. Man, I could have got a lot of views from that.
You could have.
Speaking of, you guys need to go watch my video on how indie gaming is taking over the industry. For some odd reason, the Google algorithm didn't really like that one all that much. So I'm linking that one down in the comments below. You guys need to go watch that one.
I'll go watch that one.
I put a lot of work into it.
I'll go see.
Outside of that, I appreciate you guys watching the video. I appreciate you guys fighting the good fight out there. And yeah. Anyway, catch me live on Twitch. Stay cool. Stay righteous. Stay safe, my friends.
Nice.
And I will see you in Helldivers 2. Peace.
Family, 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 family.
What the fuck? Oh my god, what was that outro? Family, family, family.
Helldivers 2.
Oh my god, I never seen that outro. Oh my god, yeah, that was a funny ass video, dude. It was so true though. Yeah, man, this is just another bullet point to add to the list of things that gamers rose up on and actually made a change. Good job. But yeah, I liked the video. I want to see more, and I don't know, maybe I'll go watch that like indie one or whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. All right, see ya.